Okay, so real quick, I just wanted to take this image and make a simple edit to it to make it look sort of like this image. So the first thing, I'm gonna hit Command or Control J to duplicate the layer so I don't mess up that original layer. I think I want to just select the flower petal, so I'll go to the Quick Selection tool, which you know how to use, and actually I'll just paint over it. It'll figure it out for me. I'll choose Select and Mask. Make sure that second tool, Refine Edge Brush tool, is automatically selected. It typically is. And see how we've got a little bit of the background showing up? If you just paint that out, Photoshop's AI intelligence will figure it out for you and give you a better looking mask for minimal effort. All right, now after you've done that, Command Spacebar so I can zoom in, Spacebar only so I can pan it. Now notice my selections. I'm at 57 radius. Typically in other videos, you've heard me say I stay around 2. Here it is around 2. But remember, edge detection is Photoshop saying, I will look around the edges for you and make it better. So notice how it makes it better as I pass around a little more. And then there's still a couple spots I can still paint if I see some odd edges. I typically leave my smoothing around 1 to 2, my feather less than a pixel. And I'm gonna scroll down to the very bottom and choose New Layer with Layer Mask. Click OK, Command 0 to fit back in screen, and look what it did. It turned off my duplicated background layer. I'm gonna turn that back on. Because if I didn't, and I turn off that background, this is all that's visible, right? Black conceals, white reveals. So I'm gonna turn back on this original. So now I have the flower petals on its own. And the first thing I wanna do is make them brighter. So I'm gonna hit Command or Control, and then I'm gonna click on that layer mask. It's gonna load that selection. Do you see how it's got those marching ants around it? And then I'm gonna come up to the levels adjustment layer, and notice what it did. It added a levels adjustment layer with that perfect mask so that I can look at my histogram and see, yes, look at that. I don't have any bright tones. So I'm gonna bring that white pointer to the base of the mountain, which we've learned. I'm gonna brighten up the midtones just a little bit. Command 0 to fit in screen because I was zoomed in a little too much. I'd say somewhere around there looks pretty believable. Now we want to create a gradient behind the hand and the flower. So I'm gonna go back to that duplicated background layer. I'm gonna go back to the quick selection tool, and I'm just gonna click select subject in the tool menu. Let Photoshop do the work. It's pretty smart. Look at that. It did a great job. Didn't get all of the stem, so I'm just gonna kind of draw on the stem, draw a little bit right there. Oops, I need the minus key, which is activated by the Alt or Option key. Fix that. And again, always go back into Select and Mask. Let Photoshop do the work with this Refine Edge brush tool. Make my brush a little bigger with the right bracket key. And I'm just gonna pass around all this and let it figure it out.
6.5 hours later.
Now, after you've done all that, if you see it got a little excited and grabbed too much, Command Spacebar to zoom back in. See, I missed the fingernails here. If I just hold down the Alt or Option key and repass over the blue, it'll refigure it out. And Spacebar to pan around, see if there's anything else that looks odd. Alt or Option, Spacebar to move around, Command 0. That looks really good. I'm going to output New Layer with Layer Mask. If you don't have this particular blue, just click on the color and choose it. I chose blue because I think it comes with a default red, which I didn't like because I couldn't see it around the flower. But that's how you would change that mask color. I'm going to click OK. So now look what happens. I now have this great mask, right? And I'm going to turn back on that duplicated background layer. So now I have just the hand and the mask and all of this. I'm going to drag it to the very top. So now I just want to create a gradient underneath, right? And it's like a sandwich. If this is one piece of bread and this is a second piece of bread, I need to put the peanut butter or the cheese in between. So I need a space to put it. So I'm going to grab this add new layer button, click it, and look, it added me a blank space to put my peanut butter or cheese, which I'm going to put a gradient. I'm going to click on that foreground swatch. It's going to launch the color picker. And then I'm going to choose, and you can vary this by dragging it up and down. I'm going to choose a magenta e-pink, think something like that. I'm going to choose the gradient tool, right, where you can click and drag and it'll create a gradient between the colors of the foreground and background. Now, when you choose it, chances are, I'm going to click in here. Let me show you what I just did. Up here at the top, remember the tool options bar controls everything about the tool you've selected. I'm going to click in that gradient. I'm going to choose basics. Notice the first one is foreground to background. Whatever is in your foreground swatch to your background swatch. The second one is foreground to transparency, and the third one will always be black to white, the default. I want my first one to be foreground to background because my background is white. If yours isn't, again, just click on the background swatch and choose white and click OK. I'm going to drag from the bottom left corner up. It looks a little weird, right? Because I washed off everything. Because remember, look at my sandwich. I didn't put my gradient in the right place. So right now I'm putting the gradient between the flower mask and the hand. I need it to be between this everything mask and the background. So I'm going to pull that down. There we go. And I'm going to draw it until there's just a little band across here. Now I want to draw from the top as well. But watch what happens. If I draw from the top, it overwrites the thing we just did. So I need to get my bottom gradient just the way I want. And once I feel like I have, I just add another space in my sandwich with this add new layer icon. And then I can come from the top. But watch what happens. Now it's going to wipe out everything we've already done. So how do we fix that? I hit Command Z to undo. Here's where we go back to that tool option bar, toggle open basics, choose the second one, click OK. So it's foreground to transparency. See how that works? All right, so now we've got this band of white coming across the flower. I don't like the color of the flower. That needs to match, right? So where's our flower? There's our flower mask. See that? If I command click on that, notice what it did. It just reactivated that mask, which is perfect. So I'm going to click it. I'm going to click here. I'm going to go above that. I'm going to choose Hue and Saturation Adjustment Layer, and it's going to load it with that same flower mask now, allowing me to grab the hue slider over here in the Properties panel. And look, I can make the flower any color I want. I'm going to make it sort of like that background, that magenta-y pink. There we go. Something like that. So we're pretty much done. But what do we see? It looks a little, I don't know, fake, a little photoshopped. We need to integrate a little bit of that original image, the reason that we took this image in the first place. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back to that original duplicated, right, layer, and I'm just going to drag it all the way to the top, the very, very top. You see the double blue lines? I'm going to let it go there. Now, obviously, that's going to mess up everything we've done. And remember, what's my goal here? I want to influence the background. I want to bring back some of that wall texture, those interesting shadows. So if I don't want to affect the flower or the hand, I need to put a mask on it. So let me go find that mask. There's that mask right here. So I Command or Control click on it. It reloads the mask. Go back to the very top and just click Add Layer Mask. And it's going to add that mask for me, which is perfect. So now when I go change the blend modes, what's happening? Look, I'm only affecting the hand and the flower. That's the opposite of what I want. So I need to invert the mask. Notice the mask is most selected with those white corners. So in the property panel, I'll see things like density and feather. I'll scroll down and click invert. Now, when I use the blend mode, I'm only affecting the background. Soft light, maybe overlay, is the most interesting one. I'll choose soft light. And then just for a more dramatic effect, if I hit Command or Control J to duplicate all of that, it's going to make it even more extreme. If I hit Command or Control J, it's going to make it even more extreme. That's a little too rectilinear for my taste. So I'm going to hit Command or Control Z to undo that third one. I'm going to call it there. We're ready to crop and save. So grab the crop tool. I'm just going to pull this down a touch, pull this up a touch. Really like to get some rule of thirds happening. Maybe I'll go a little more vertical like a magazine. And then you're ready to save this. Hey, if you like this video and it helped, you can help me. Smack it, whack it, and crack-a-lack it. Take care. I like subscribers.
That's awesome! Whoa! Yes! Oh my god, I did! This is...
Hey, you stayed to the end. You know what that means? You're awesome. I'm talking about you. Now get out of here.